people registered. I don't know if we can do that, Nate, anymore. We may have to blow the marketing budget for the year, but good problems to have. So without any further ado, I want to introduce the three people with us today. Some wonderful chamber colleagues from In Her Presence. And now In Her Presence is a nonprofit organization that strives to bring together immigrant women from across communities and generations to ensure that Maine's economic agenda includes the aspirations and needs of immigrant women. Joining us are Claudette, I'm going to try to get her name correct, Ndayininahaze. She's the executive director and founder of In Her Presence. Also joining us are Mary Faulkner, who is the Bridge to Career Fulfillment Director, and Jim Elkins, who is a career consultant. Together, they bring decades of nonprofit training and career counseling expertise. Take it away, friends.
Thank you so much, Tommy. Today, we have a challenge for society where we need to educate ourselves and our young generation for a very uncertain future. On behalf of the In Her Presence team, I would like to express our gratitude to see each one of you and to hold this space. Thank you for attending our presentation. Thank you for the Chamber for creating this wonderful platform for In Her Presence and businesses so we can inspire one another. Today, we only have one hour, but it's full of learning, stories, and inspiration. You will be able to revise the barriers new mentors are facing. You will learn the traditional hiring approach and also the immigrant-friendly approach. You will live with a blueprint for success in attracting and retaining new mentors for the long term. And now, who is in our presence? Most people present now have been in touch with In Her Presence, either as a volunteer, a coach, a mentor, a partner, a student, a sponsor, a donor, a funder. I can keep going with the list, as you know. And we are so, so grateful. As you may know, many people leave their countries because of different reasons. Sometimes it's not a choice, but they are obliged. We leave everything behind: our school, job, home, language, the food we used to eat. We embrace a new system where you don't know anyone, different culture, misperception. The main concern here is how to find and navigate a path from what was the place you once called home to what will be someplace new where you start your life again from the scratch. Without the language, nothing you can do. You don't communicate. And here, In Her Presence became a catalyst for change, succeeding to bring people coming from different countries, places, cultural values, and life experience, creating a safe space where everyone can feel that they belong, creating a common intersection of a mutual understanding and walking the path together toward hope and resilience, illuminating and bringing women from the shadow into the state to overcome isolation, building relationship, and bridge a cross-cultural communication, and break the silence. As you can see, therefore, our mission is to empower immigrant women and families to achieve first the career goals, the financial stability, and make Maine their homes. We go beyond our own organization. The next slide. Who is our community? Keep going. Who is our community? As you can see on the map, we currently serve 90 immigrant women who are from 12 countries, and we speak more than 20 languages. In 2021, our programs impacted approximately 540 members of the Maine immigrant community. 89% come from Africa. We have also over 200 members participating with or the backbone project surrounding our three programs. On the next slide, let's highlight some barriers new minors are facing, as you may know too. Immigration status, which is long and complex. It generates different resources and benefit for each category, meaning that people are lacking the basic needs, like the food, the housing, clothing, transportation. And as I said, without the language, nothing we can do. You cannot communicate. Adding the technology's access, it becomes worse and worse. Women are the pilot of the family. 3/4 of immigrants are women and children. They have everything on their shoulder and they don't reach out for help. The childcare is so expensive, not only for immigrants, but for all the parents. We have seen that it's so hard to engage parents and school team to support children education. And then comes, of course, the workplace, as we are here. The intimidating application process, the demanding job requirements, the training in the US practices, which are unknown to immigrants. Let's welcome our talented and amazing teacher and a Bridge to Career Fulfillment Director, Mary Faulkner.
Thank you so much, Claudette. Can I have the next slide, please? So new Mainers that I have had the pleasure of working with at In Her Presence for the last 4 years, so I can attest, bring experience and education and lots of motivation. People who come to the US as asylum seekers or refugees may not bring with them a lot of wealth or material goods. Experience and education may be the only things they're able to bring with them. And therefore, they are highly motivated to begin rebuilding their lives here in the US. We know that our population at In Her Presence has, we need to go back a couple of slides. There we go. That our population at In Her Presence has 50% of people have some college education, bachelor's degrees, master's degrees, and some PhDs. Despite that, nearly 80% are still considered low income or living below poverty. I can tell you that their backgrounds are from every walk of life. I have students who are seamstresses, doctors, nurses, engineers, IT professionals, lawyers, accountants, you name it. But it's often very hard for people to match their previous experience, especially if specific credentials are required with the American system. Next slide, please. So today I'm going to tell you a little bit about how In Her Presence supports immigrants, and I hope that our story will reveal something that you can borrow for your own organization. At In Her Presence, first and foremost, we focus on confidence building. When your whole life has been interrupted, it can really shift what you think is possible. And we know that what you believe is possible determines your future. So we offer a lot of programming to try to address the whole person: health, social connection, cultural experiences, leadership development. We pull confidence building through in every aspect of our interactions. Confidence building, of course, is often established by skill building. So we have a high emphasis on English language education. We offer 6 levels of English classes, pronunciation classes taught by a speech therapist. We offer a career path development course. And of course, we offer job placement services. We have a 2-pronged approach: basic employment for lower level speakers or new arrivals, and and entry-level and mid-level professional employment offered and supported by our professional career counselor, who you'll hear from in a minute. I also teach classes in workplace skill development. This can range from typing and hard skills like typing, email, office skills, Google Suite, to soft skills like dealing with difficult customers. We build deep relationships with our students and the places that we place them. We offer post-employment support, so when people leave us, they always feel comfortable to call us, and of course, we are reaching out to them. Next slide, please.
So why did we develop the career pathway for our women and families? I remember back in 2017, when I was the cultural broker at the Opportunity Alliance, we had conversation with businesses and they were honest. They said that they have a fear to hire immigrants because they don't know us and they don't know how their employees were going to react. So we realized that there was a need to accelerate the trajectory by first improving the communication skills, speaking clear and concise, have the ability to articulate our background and experience between what we've done back home and what the specific job requires that we are interviewing for. We have applied the strategy of using low barrier conversation, meaning having more informal dialogue rather than presenting training on how to be culturally competent. This allows us to build a safe environment for employers and communities to discuss their barriers and fears. It's my pleasure now to introduce our career counselor, Jim Elkins, who has been a huge asset for the Bridge to Career Fulfillment program.
Good morning, everybody. I really like to thank you for being here this morning to talk with us about this critical workforce initiative. I met Claudette about 7 years ago at an Eggs and Issues, and I learned about In Her Presence. I was really impressed with Claudette's passion and started to volunteer. Today, I spend a significant amount of my time with In Her Presence. Of course, the lesson to be learned from this is don't sit next to Claudette at an Eggs and Issues because she'll infect you with her passion. She really will. As both Claudette and Mary said, most of the people with whom we work have degrees and professional experience. I work with those from that group whose English skills are advanced enough to allow them to participate in interviews for entry or mid-level professional positions. Mary, Claudette, and others work with those whose language skills are more basic and help them with more basic positions. My work involves traditional career development activities, next slide please, such as are shown on the slide here. But my approach is rather unique because of the population. I'd like to describe it as individualized, intensive, and ongoing. What I mean by individualized is that the career paths in the US, the career paths that most of us have followed are fairly linear, where a person advances in a field. But new Mainers, due to the economic instabilities in their countries, the low wages that they often experience, they've had to combine paid positions with self-employment. You see this frequently. So when I assist them in terms of writing resumes, cover letters, preparing for interviews, I try to work with them so that they can convey their total background, not just a part of it. So when you as an employer look at the resume of a new Mainer, you may see that they have concurrent positions. And you might ask yourself, hey, how could someone hold down a full-time job, go to college, and possibly also operate a business? You know, it just seems like there aren't enough hours in the week to do that. But these people have had to do that. They've had to do that to support their families. they will work as hard for you as they worked for themselves previously. Also, in the US, we really value individual effort and encourage job candidates to highlight their accomplishments. What have you done? What's your greatest accomplishment? What have you done in the last couple of years to make this company better? In some cultures, however, talking about individual accomplishments is seen as boasting. It's really discouraged. Everyone's part of a team. Teamwork is more emphasized. So as an employer, when you're interviewing a new American, you may find them reluctant to talk about themselves. So it's really incumbent upon you to be a little more probing in your approach. And this way you'll find out more about the talents and skills that they bring. Intensive. The process is intensive. Navigating our employment process is complex and confusing to those who are new to the US. You know, we're used to it, so we don't have a problem with it. But dealing with automated application systems, tailoring cover letters to specific positions, interpreting employment offer letters, these are just some of the things with which I help. And these are things that are often new to our new Americans, to our new Mainers. This work takes time. In some cases, I've worked with individuals over a period of 2 to 3 years to assist them in obtaining an entry or mid-level professional position. And I might add that during that time, these folks are often working 2, maybe even 3 jobs, cobbling together a living at a really basic level. During 2021, to show you how intensive this work is, I worked with approximately 40 individuals and had over 700 contacts. Now, I value a contact as anything from a short email to a practice interview, but you can see from this that it really does take a lot of time. This effort was successful. It resulted in 23 placements, which include entry or mid-level professional positions, advancement with a current or a different employer, or entry to a training program. As an example, we placed a school district multicultural coordinator, an HR assistant, an accounting specialist, a clinical team assistant, and others. Those are just some examples. Finally, ongoing. In addition to what I do, Claudette, Mary, and others at IHP provide support throughout this process. This may include language classes, as we mentioned before, assistance in accessing some type of basic service such as childcare, or just listening. And listening is a really important component. Our work doesn't end in employment. We are available to our participants after they begin work to help them deal with workplace issues, advance in other positions, obtain leadership training. We're also available to help employers with the multicultural issues that you may experience in terms of attracting and retaining new Mainers. So I'm going to turn this back to Claudette, who's going to talk about attracting and retaining a multicultural workforce.
It's Murray.
Oh, Mary.
No worries. Thank you so much, Jim. Could we have the next slide, please? So you might be wondering, how can I attract more people to my job openings? So Claudette and I mainly, with our job placement, we are working with our new arrivals, lower level speakers. But I think the advice I have here applies to everyone. As mentioned as a barrier, technology is challenging for many new Mainers. They haven't had a lot of experience, or they may simply not have access to a device. So if you are advertising your jobs only on Indeed.com or your organization's website, you're really missing a lot of people, because our population is not hanging out on the internet. If you can adjust your application process, you might reach a lot more people. Old school, paper advertising, posters, flyers. Go back. Put them at churches, grocery stores, bus stops. You don't be afraid to use other languages. Put some information on there that you feel might connect with a new Mainer population that you would like to get to know better. Also, instead of websites and email addresses, try using a phone number. People that I work with have phones and they are pretty good at texting. So this is another option to consider, might give you a broader reach. By having your posters out there, advertising 101, going to generate word of mouth among the new Mainer community, might get more people attracted not only to your specific job opening, but help position your organization as an immigrant-friendly one. Also, we highly recommend that you network with immigrant organizations like ours. There are many wonderful organizations in Maine that work with immigrants. The Maine Immigrant Rights Coalition website has a list of over 60 organizations in Maine that work with new Mainers. Go there, check it out, reach out, get to know some organizations that might be willing to work with you, to share your job openings, and to share their expertise on their community. We highly recommend this multicultural approach because it builds trust. And trust is really the key to getting new Mainers to want to come and work with you and stay with you. Next slide, please. So, waive the complicated digital application process. Once you have people's attention, take a second look at your job description. Do you really need all of the job requirements? We read a lot of job postings with very complicated job requirements. They're hard for us to decipher. They're very hard to decipher if you don't speak English as a first language. We recommend using a skills-based approach for your job description. What skills does this person really need to have rather than the degree or the job title that they needed to have had before in order to get this one? Multiple languages. You're going to hear me say this again and again. Right now, if you go on Indeed.com and you search for interpreter, a job that specifically requires someone to be fully fluent or a native speaker of a different language, nearly all of those posts are written 100% in English. We Americans are so nervous about using any other foreign language words. I want to encourage everyone to use Google Translate, find an organization with native speakers that will help you feel comfortable, reach out and try to draw people in. This will really separate you from other organizations who are not making the same effort. Finally, we know, everyone knows that people who have been educated before value education. So new Mainers who come here are trying to learn English. They're trying to recertify themselves perhaps in what they had done before. But it's so hard to do that while you're trying to raise a family, have a job. Any jobs that offer on-the-job training or long-term internships that might lead to permanent employment, very attractive to this population. Of course, I would be remiss if I did not mention my very favorite keywords as a woman, as a parent: flexible daytime schedule. I cannot tell you how many students I have who believe they have to work at night so that they can be at home during the day with their children. Of course, the obvious pitfall to that situation is that there is no time to sleep. They dream of having a job during the day. So flexible daytime schedule, very attractive to this population. Once you have hired someone, retain them by creating a clear career path for them. When you come from a different system and you speak a different language, it's very, very hard to know what's next, if there is a next. If you as an employer can map out a future for them at your organization, clearly, specifically, in writing, and with pictures, I'm an ESL teacher, this will create a vision a future for them that they can hold on to, much more likely to stay with you, be loyal to you, and really appreciate your effort. Multilingual materials whenever possible, keeping in mind when was the last time that you made an important life decision in a foreign language. It's scary. Offer some information in a person's native language. They will be so grateful. Any kind of training, all of these things together add up to building a culture of safety and trust in a workplace. Next slide, please. So finally, creating immigrant-friendly workspaces. Claudette and I really believe in the whole person approach, which I mentioned earlier. What do I mean by this? What I am getting at is that when we place people, especially in low-level jobs, it's so hard for us as Americans not to look at people as their job, as imagining that because they're doing this job right now, that's the best that they can do. But in the case of asylum seekers, refugees whose lives have been interrupted, very likely that they're taking a low-level job because that's the only thing they can get with the level of English that they currently have. And it does take time to acquire a new language. So if you are onboarding someone to a low-level position as a janitor, instead of saying to your team, hello everyone, I'd like you to meet our new janitor, you could say, everyone, I would love for you to meet Joe, who's from wherever, who used to be an electrical engineer, but now is going to be helping us out in environmental services for some. I think you get the idea. You want to choose, if it isn't their education or their experience, it's something positive about them that makes them more than just their job. This will help create a perception shift on both sides. Inevitably, there will be problems. Communication will break down. In the case of problems, we highly recommend a multicultural team approach. Having someone who looks like you and sounds like you on your side, helping explain your point of view is invaluable. And this is not only on the side of the immigrant person, but on the American side as well. Everyone wants to feel represented. So minimum 2 cultures represented, because representation is the heart of success. Next slide, please.
Thank you. Mary is talking about perception shift. How do we shift our mindset on both sides? On the immigrants we are hiring, but on the employer side too. So continuing creating this, the workspace, I think there's 2 other things. To tackle the language. How do you tackle the language barrier? And also seek out management coaching. On the language, we need to be to get the help into the orientation and training, and you can use different languages spoken. You need to write down and translate key steps that everyone knows, and you need ongoing. Our people need ongoing English language training, as Mary was saying, because they have less communication. We need to acknowledge of existing language skills. And sometimes, if you speak French, for example, make a badge saying that I speak French. Then the customer will be careful and not be angry. How do we seek management coaching? We have seen that there is an anticipation and problem solving meeting, which needs to be happen. A willingness and a commitment before you place someone. They need to inform and be prepared other employees to welcome the new hire. You need to develop a cross-cultural conversation to reinforce the needs, understanding, and awareness where both parties can express themselves. It requires also a mental connection pointing someone who can support the new hire on the site, get to master the workplace culture, build relationship and trust. You need to do frequent checking, ongoing support as needed, and also the follow-up. Next slide. That's to Jim.
So we can't do this without you. We need help from employers. And we've been fortunate to have developed some wonderful relationships with employers. Two examples of our successful partnerships are with Greater Portland Health and Hannaford. And we're pleased to have representatives from each of these organizations with us today. They're going to share a little bit about their experiences in integrating new Mainers within their workforces. First, we have worked closely with Greater Portland Health to facilitate the onboarding of 4 new Mainers. One is an HR assistant. This person had a legal background in her home country. One is a financial counselor who had a financial background, and 2 community health workers who both had some community outreach experience in their home countries. So I'd like to introduce Elizabeth Jackson, who is the Chief Administrative Officer at Greater Portland Health. Elizabeth joined Greater Portland Health in 2016. She is an experienced public health professional with global and domestic health experience, including working with health system partners in Africa, Asia, and Latin America. She received her master's in public health from Yale University and her bachelor's from Bates College. So she certainly has a Maine connection. Over to you, Elizabeth.
Thanks so much, Jim, and good morning, everyone. It's an honor to be part of this conversation today. So I'll just briefly speak to who we are at Greater Portland Health and then how we've been working closely in this partnership, which has been so wonderful. So at Greater Portland Health, our mission is to provide high quality, patient-centered healthcare that is accessible, affordable, and culturally sensitive. So we're, again, a health practice that provides integrated medical, behavioral, and oral health care in the Greater Portland area. We have a number, I think it's about 12 at this point, of established health centers that really target specific underserved populations in the community. And our services and sites really range from focusing on, healthcare for the homeless program to, we have 6 school-based health centers at this point. We also partner with Portland Public Housing Authority and have 3 health centers embedded in public housing units and other sites as well. So again, really looking to tailor the services that we offer to different pockets of the community in underserved areas in particular. And so in terms of what we do that's relevant to today's conversation, which is so important, is a really high percentage of our patients are immigrants, asylum seekers, and refugees. We're grateful to have patients from all over the world who have established care with us. I think our last count was 43 different countries where our patients originate from. And so of course that means that a wide range of languages are also spoken. So we really, do our best to try and have services, again, that are culturally appropriate, provide wraparound support in a range of ways that are hopefully supportive, from linguistic to socioeconomic, transportation, communication, housing, and other, kind of community health and other support, community services support. So again, it's been a tremendous partnership that we're really grateful for to be working with in her presence. And Jim has been so supportive in helping to send a number of interested individuals to, and in the end, work with us. As he said, we currently have 4 team members who have recently joined us in the capacities he mentioned. Again, a couple of community health workers, one who's working with our human resources team, and then a financial assistance counselor. And they've already been, they're relatively short time with us, tremendous additions to the team. No surprise, of course. They bring so much experience from their previous career chapters before they even came to us here in Maine, and then of course in the US, and just have so much to offer, just their professional skills and then their language skills. I mean, given our patient population, which I just briefly described, is immensely helpful. So we really appreciate the partnership, Jim. Thanks again. You've been so helpful in your coaching, and please continue to send interested individuals our way. We have a lot of openings. And again, we hope that bringing on such wonderful team members is really mutually beneficial for our patients, for the individuals who are looking for work. We have need to fill roles with team members who can relate to our patients in so many ways. It's really such a true alignment we found. Even before the workforce shortage, which we're all experiencing, these partnerships would be tremendously beneficial, and hopefully will continue to be. So again, thank you. It's been really helpful, and we hope to continue to be one of the community partners that you work with, and that we can hopefully be a good fit for many individuals looking to work in healthcare. We try and have a supportive and welcoming environment, and please let us know if you hear feedback otherwise. But again, the partnership feels really aligned. So thanks for the great work you're doing, and In Her Presence is such a tremendous organization. So Claudette, thank you so much to you for what you lead.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I'm going to turn it over to Mary, who's going to introduce Cheryl from Hannaford.
Next slide, please. It is my pleasure and honor to introduce Cheryl Hinkson, Director of Operations at Hannaford. She oversees 15 stores and has worked at Hannaford for 36 years. She has worked in operations, merchandising, and human resources. And when Cheryl is not working at Hannaford, supporting In Her Presence on the side, she has 3 boys and 4 grandchildren. Cheryl?
Thank you, Mary. And good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me today. And I'm excited to talk about our partnership with In Her Presence. We had the fortunate opportunity to partner with them. And it's not just about them partnering with us to attract potential associates for us and employees for us. It's for also us to learn and grow as an employer. Our communities are changing. As you heard Claudette talk about, we have to represent our communities, not only from who works for us, but our customers. We're a grocery store business. That's our connection. We all can relate to food. We all have this love for food. Food brings up so many memories. And so we need to continue to build our workforce to represent our communities, to help us be a stronger employer, but also to help our customers see folks who look and sound like them in our grocery stores. So we are fortunate that we've been able to learn a lot from In Her Presence. So I want to talk about just a couple quick stories about what we've learned since this partnership. When you grow up in America and you don't have a lot of experience with multicultural folks or lived in different countries, you take things for granted that you just don't know about until you experience it. So Claudette and Mary both talked about how you have to have a safe and trusting environment for folks who are coming from a different country into a new culture, language being a barrier potentially. And we learned that firsthand. We had an associate that worked for us, and the manager kept walking by this associate to check on him, but was creating this feeling that he was being spied on. And that wasn't the intent of this manager. And so Mary and Claudette were able to give us that feedback and teach us how we could better interact with this associate so he was feeling safe and could be as successful within our organization. We want folks to have careers with us. As you heard Mary say, I started when I was 16 years old in high school. And I've been fortunate to have a career. This wasn't just a job for me. I've been able to work in very different functional areas of our organization, and we hope to allow that for other folks who come with these backgrounds. This is a stepping stone to start with, maybe within our retail stores, but open up the door to other opportunities that are available within our organization, at our home office, within our distribution centers. There's so many different avenues. We're learning simple things on just how to onboard differently. How do we have to have our training differently? I talked about you take things for granted. Just currency. We were working with an associate on our front end and cashing out customers, and we don't spend a lot of time training on what does a quarter value, what's a dime value, just not thinking that currency is so different when you come from another country. And so we think about how now when we onboard folks with different backgrounds that we have to spend more time on those types of explanations and getting people comfortable with that than what we maybe have done in the past. We're fortunate that Mary and Claudette can help us when we do run into those challenges, and they're a go-to person for us to understand what can we do differently? How can we grow as leaders? How can we grow as an employer to help everyone be successful, and not just in their current job, but in a career? And, Jim, I think, talked about how they don't speak a lot about their experience. So maybe we weren't even offering the right pay rate for their experience because we didn't know, and really helping to dig into those questions when we do the interviews. So they're getting a very competitive rate for what they're bringing to the table to help our organization and the experience they bring. We're learning things as an employer on product offering from having folks work for us that are from multicultural backgrounds. What are we missing? What are we missing for products for customers that we can even do better to offer those products to our customers within our community? I could go on and on, but there are so many learnings we've had with this partnership In Her Presence. We're looking forward to continue to grow as an employer and partner with them to attract more potential applicants that apply for jobs for us, and that they can see that this can be a career and not just a job, and they can have that confidence and use this opportunity to get integrated into the culture and feel safe and feel there's folks really helping to develop them. So I'm honored to be asked to speak and partner with Mary and Claudette. And so I'll turn it back, I think, to Mary. So thank you all.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. Claudette, I'm going to hand it off to you to wrap it up for us.
Thank you so much, Cheryl and Elizabeth. Yes, for your partnership. Yes, open the door and grow together. I want just a little bit to mention two other big businesses we partner, Adagash and Memo. They are so great to working with us. So as we all heard how complex is the system. We don't know what to do, how to change. But each one of us can do something to stand up and unlock the door. How do we break the fear and the silence? How do we build a cross-cultural dialogue? How do we create and face uncomfortable conversation? How do we reflect on our action? How do we all recognize our blind spots? It begins with an understanding about what makes you different, what makes others special, and by putting ourselves in other people's shoes. Thank you, community partners again, and donors for believing in us and honoring us with your trust. We wouldn't be here without your commitment. With a growing population of immigrants in Maine, as both said, we welcome you to continue with us on this journey. We need your hands and hearts so we can increase our capacity, sustainability, and promote equity. If you would like to learn more about our work and our goals, please visit our website or contact us so we can set a time aside for you to meet. Let's open now the floor for questions. I'm going to turn it to Tony back.
Well, thank you all for another great presentation. At this point, I'd like to make sure that Claudette, Mary, and Jim have their cameras and microphones unmuted, as we have some questions we'd like to ask you. I actually had a couple questions myself. Let's say I'm a small employer with no new Mainer employees. How can I go about developing a more diverse workforce?
I think that should be one that Mary would answer.
Yeah.
You've been talking about that.
So if you don't, getting the first new Mainer is going to be the hardest. So I would refer you back to my slide where I had the poster. So think about that. What can you do to visually represent yourself? Also, reach out to immigrant organizations. Maine Immigrant Rights Coalition has a huge list. We at In Her Presence, of course, would love to speak to you, but we're a small organization and we deal mainly with the 200 people we have. There are thousands and thousands of new Mainers. So we would love for everyone to take something that you learned today and share it. Reach out in any way that you can. Claudette, what would your advice be to someone who has no new Mainers?
I think inviting an organization, an immigrant organization, taking her presence. So reaching out to us so we can sit together. First, I think there is a willingness and a commitment on the side of the employer. Then you meet an immigrant organization or someone who has the skills and the expertise to coach you. I think there is a coaching and there is an anticipation, as we said, and problem solving. How do you anticipate that? Meet with the team, and then you get all the pathway and guide you need to see how they can support you, reaching out to someone who has the skills, and then we can keep working together. It's a process. It's not really one thing, but it's a process.
And
Yeah, I would add, someone said in the chat, can we send job openings in her presence? And the answer to that is yes. But remember that we're a small organization and we only deal with a small number of people relative to the total immigrant population. So you probably should be sending your job openings to more than one organization to get real true visibility for it.
Yeah.
That's great. Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Claudette. Go ahead.
No, I was going to add one thing. I think also employers should even think about, yes, you need to make your workplace diverse, but think about also investing into immigrant ECBO immigrant organization, because that's the way they are going really to improve and promote leadership for immigrants, because we don't have a lot of immigrant leaders. So how do we invest? Can you contribute and invest into that promotion of the leadership? And then you get people who have those skills and knowledge of the system.
Excellent. And we have just about 5 more minutes for a couple other questions. I do want to encourage people, if you do have questions, please put them in the chat. I'll do my best to parlay them over to the presenters. But if we don't get a chance to answer all your questions, we will have them answered, and then they'll be included in the event wrap-up email that you'll receive today or tomorrow. The next question I had was, this is an important one. What resources do organizations that serve immigrants, such as In Her Presence, need to be more successful?
You want to go? I can.
Go ahead, Claudette.
So first, I was talking about that, the capacity building. Our ECBO organization, taking her presence, what really we need is, we have only 2 employers, and see the scope of the work we are talking. How everyone, we need a cultural broker who can support us doing that work with businesses. ECBO organization, they don't thrive. It's a dream because they only have 1 employee. And we need more hands, as we said with our president. We need more hands and hearts so we can support immigrant organizations so they can really promote. We need a full-time teacher, for example. Mary is the one she's doing the business side. She's doing also the teaching side. So we need more of that. Jim said he has been working last year with more than 40 people. It's overwhelming. How can we get more career counselor on our side? So May, anything to add?
I just want to point out that I'm not the only teacher. We have 5 or 6 teachers, but I do primarily work with the more advanced speakers, teaching career skills, interview skills, and so on. And I know that a lot of organizations now, larger organizations, are offering their own English classes, which I think is wonderful. The other thing I forgot to mention when I was speaking, but it's just the value of allowing any new Mainers that you hire time to take classes to learn English and to learn American systems, so that they can progress anywhere within your organization or just in Maine in life. There's a lot to learn.
Yeah. And what I can add, I think, you see we are on Zoom now. It's good because we are on Zoom, but we don't have a space. We need a space for our women so they can learn. They can learn English. We can do all our projects. Our program can happen in one space. We don't have office space. So there is a huge need of supporting the work we are doing so we can thrive together and we can promote equity and impact our community in Maine.
Excellent. Got time for a couple more questions here. This one just came in from Landis Hackett. He asks, what are your thoughts or experiences with quote unquote micro-credentialing or badging as a way to highlight existing skills folks have to work around the prioritizing of degrees or previous job titles?
Yeah, let me take that one. There was just a study out from the Federal Reserve saying that with the crunch in the employment market today, that employers nationally are becoming far more flexible. They're pursuing what the Federal Reserve called more of a skills-based approach that Mary had mentioned. And so micro-credentials or certificate programs all play right into that. And I'm really hopeful that employers are valuing those. But of course, you have to be a little bit, you have to do a little research on them to make sure that these credentials are really credentials of value, which is the end term today, a credential of value. And you can find that out easily by whether it's sponsored by a university, a vocational school, some professional organization. But yes, I think that really is the wave of the future.
And I will add to what Jim said, that from the perspective of the new Mainer, certificates are very attractive. People, they love them. They want to get them. They want to show that that their hard work means something and they have something to show for it. So
I can give you an example of one too. We have a young lady who had both a bachelor's and a master's degree in human resources from her home country, but that really isn't very recognized here. And so she enrolled in the certificate program at the University of Southern Maine in HR. And this, I'm sure, is going to result in employment for her ultimately.
Excellent. Well, as we're getting ready to wrap up here, I did want to pose one other question that came through, but I think what we'll do is we'll answer this with the email that comes out. But Chandra T asked, can you recommend any training materials that could help organizational trainers learn how best to train or support their new Mainer candidates? And I think what we'll do is I'll have each of you think about that, and we'll put some of those resources that you might recommend in that email that we have that goes out to all of our attendees later today or tomorrow. But that was a great presentation. Thank you again to all of our presenters and partners. Just a reminder that today's presentation has been recorded. It'll be available for replay on the Chamber's website and YouTube page. A copy of today's presentation and those additional details and resources will be included in that email that you receive later on. A quick plug for all of our upcoming Chamber events. Be sure to check on the Chamber website and calendar for all of our great events, and even better, sign up for our weekly newsletter when you're there. Thank you again to everyone for another great episode of Eaton Peabody's Growth Basics for Business, and to each of you for attending today and for attending throughout the year. Another shout out to our sponsors, Eaton Peabody and Anania Bailey, for their commitment to this series. We look forward to seeing you all at our next Growth Basics for Business on Tuesday, April 12th, where we'll hear from a trio of panelists representing Barry Dunn, LaBelle Harriman, and Eaton Peabody on the topic of what small businesses need to know about retirement plan compliance. Have a wonderful day, get out and enjoy, and have a great rest of your week. And to the presenters, if